One thing I've learned in the myriad of RC model builds that I've done is that I never have enough consumable materials, so I end up sourcing quite a bit from Amazon. We'll start out with wire. You got to have silicone wire if you're going to build RC models. I like 14 gauge and 12 gauge. I use 14 gauge for lower amp circuits, normally connected to an XT60, and I'll use 12 gauge when I'm using something a little heavier like an XT90 for higher current draws. But the bottom line is you have to do the research to figure out what the right gauge is for your application. The reason I like silicone is because it's flexible and it has a high strand count. The high strand count means the wire bends, and the silicone casing allows you to solder without burning the ends of the material of the sheathing. So the silicone wire, definitely a must-have, and you can get it on Amazon in spools that are fairly cheap. Anybody that's ever started any kind of handy project knows that you can never have enough screws and you never have the right ones. That's why I order lots of different varieties of screw sets from Amazon. Again, I get them very cheap, and they've got every combination you can imagine. This is an M2 set. I've got an M4 set. These are a little bit bigger, and notice these are button head screws, so maybe motor applications, that's where I might use these. On this one, I've got a set of a bunch of M2.5 and M2 screws, so smaller for smaller connections. Maybe servo horns sometimes work with these types of screws. And these are M3s, M4s, and M5s. So go to Amazon and pick up different assortments of screws. They're very cheap on Amazon. They have all kinds of different size options. I'll include links for about 3 of them in the description so you can see the ones that I have. But Amazon is where I get this stuff because they come in nice little carry cases and they're dirt cheap. Bob Smith Industries epoxy. Now, the reason I get epoxy from Amazon is because it's just a little bit cheaper. Right now, there's only a couple of dollars difference retail, but when you're only buying a $12 part, a couple of dollars actually makes a difference percentage-wise, and you get free shipping. So keep that in mind. While the retail price is actually kind of close, you get free shipping, and it's still a couple bucks cheaper. It winds up being about 20% cheaper, plus free shipping. I've used this on so many of my models, I can't even count. I always keep a spare set of epoxy in my stash. Just the other day, I was walking through a big box hardware store with my son, and I noticed they had one of those display boxes filled with zip ties. And I picked one of the bags up, and they had 100 zip ties for like $8, and I almost fell off my rocker. I told my son that I can get 600 of these for about 10. That's how much these cost. You get a variety of sizes. You get some heavy-duty ones, some mid-size zip ties, some small 4-inch ones for smaller electronics, and in some cases, they'll even throw in these little zip tie standoffs. So yeah, $9 on Amazon, and you can find all kinds of different assortments of zip ties. I don't go there because they're some kind of quality level above what you can find in a big box store, but they sure are a lot cheaper. If you work with any of the smaller circuit boards in the RC hobby, eventually you're going to want some heat shrink, and I get the 12mm clear. The reason I get the clear is because if there's an LED on the board or a button that I have to be able to press, I want to be able to see that. So having a clear heat shrink is really important, and a lot of times the devices themselves come with either one or none. So I always wind up getting myself some 12mm or maybe 10mm if you can find it, depending on how big your circuit boards are, but get yourself some clear heat shrink, and I get this stuff on Amazon. This one's going to seem ridiculous, but it's called Blenderm Tape by 3M, and I use this all the time. I keep this in my field box, which explains why it's so beat up. When I got this roll, it was about that big. So I use this tape all the time. In fact, just last weekend, I used it to hold a sunshade on the camera for Freddie while we were filming. The reason I like this tape is because it's very pliable, it's clear, it comes off easy, and it doesn't remove material. So it's really good to use on applications where you want to be delicate about removing the paint. I cannot guarantee you that it won't remove paint from a foam plane, but if you need to tape something and you want to avoid the risk of removing paint, this is probably going to be your best option. It also comes off the surface without leaving any residue. So Blenderm Tape is a must-have for your RC toolbox. I love this stuff. It's very flexible, very sticky, doesn't leave a residue, and comes off normally without damaging the surface. I swear if one purist comes in and says, don't add weight to your models, I'm just going to delete the comment. Look, sometimes when you're building a model, you need to make adjustments for weight. Sometimes if you're at the field and the balance isn't right, without going home and revamping everything, adding a little bit of weight is not going to kill your model. It'll fly just fine. Anyway, I always keep lead weight handy in my toolkit, and I always keep a couple of spares in my field box. So just in case I need to make a little adjustment at the field, I can do that. Of course, the preference is to make it mechanically balanced without adding dead weight. I get it. But in the event you need to do a quick field repair, there's nothing wrong with using a little bit of lead weight just to test things out. You guys might think it's silly to bring hot glue into the equation, but I'll tell you right now, I use hot glue all the time. And this crystal clear stuff that I get on Amazon is actually really good. If you build flight test planes, this is a good combination for the foam that they use. I've used this for years. It works really well. And it's $6 for 50 sticks. Very cheap, and I trust the glue. You can use this for all kinds of things, even just holding something temporarily in place while you screw it or glue it with something else. Be creative with it. You'll be surprised at how much you use hot glue in the hobby. These are one of the criminals that always get me. I always have a hard time finding servo extensions, so I opt for big packages of multi-type servo extensions. I've got short ones, I've got medium ones, I've got long ones, and look, I'm already getting low on mediums, and I just ordered the darn things. They're a lot cheaper on Amazon than you find in most other retail locations on the internet. All right, I saved the best for last, and I was tempted not to even show this to you guys, but Kester Solder. I'll tell you right now, when I ran out of my Radio Shack purple label solder, I was just devastated because I love the way that stuff flows. I love the way it heats up and melts. It's just awesome solder. This Kester, I went through about 5 or 6 different brands before I stumbled onto this Kester solder, and I'll tell you what, this stuff works fantastic. There's a link for it in the description. It's not cheap, but I'll tell you what, my solder joints come out excellent using this solder. I love this stuff. I'm really glad I found it. Well, that's all I've got for this video. I will have affiliate links in the description, so if you want any of the things that I showed you today, I'd really appreciate it if you use my affiliate links, because then the channel gets a little bit of a kickback and it doesn't cost you anything extra. Well, that wraps up my video for the consumables I buy on Amazon for the RC hobby. I hope you liked the material, and if you did, please subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know when new videos hit the channel. That's all I've got for today. Take it easy. Hey, if you like the work I do here on RC Video Reviews, please consider joining me on Patreon. For about the price of a cup of coffee, you can help me keep making videos just like this one. If you'd like to help out, there's a link in the description and on your screen.